welcome to Personal Branding and LinkedIn Lunch Club. I'm super excited to be here. If you don't know about this club, it's to help you to build your confidence, to show up online, to build your personal brand and your online presence, to get more opportunities to grow your network and win more clients using LinkedIn. Today, I'm joined by a very special guest, Gail Atkins, Head of People at Pace. Hi, Gail.
Hi, Keisha.
How are you? Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So do say hi to Gail as well in the comments. It is Gail's first live, and she was happy to come on the live and share her experiences with you. So do say hi and support Gail in the comments, because doing a live on LinkedIn is a huge thing as it is. I know, Gail, you've got experience with doing video now, so we'll get to that shortly. But do say hi to Gail in the comments. Also, do let us know in the comments where you're tuning in from, and if you have experienced imposter syndrome at any point and how you found the experience. And if you're still experiencing it, are you letting it hold you back? Or how are you trying to navigate that at the moment? So do share with us how you're experiencing it. If you are brave enough to, and if you feel vulnerable enough to, or just let us know where you're tuning in from, because it's great to see who is here with us. So, Gail, what I'd like to do is just let people know a little bit more about you, firstly with your career, because you've done so well with your career. You've been in several leadership roles. And done so much so far. So are you able just to let people know a little bit about your background and what you've done so far with your career?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Keisha. And thank you so much for having me. A very warm welcome. I do feel as though I'm in a very safe and trusted environment with you. Going through my career, actually, it's quite reflective. I'm normally on the other side of this interview process where I'm asking the questions, so it's very alien to me. There's a common theme throughout my career, and that is people. So I went off to university at the age of 18 and went into a retail role from 16, which then took me through my university life and beyond. So there was a very strong people focus, very strong customer service focus. I then applied for a role in recruitment as a trainee recruitment consultant back in Hull, where I'd gone to university. And I started in industrial recruitment that then changed into commercial recruitment and then into accountancy and finance recruitment. And it was when I was recruiting for qualified and unqualified accountants that I was then asked to head over to Australia, where I spent the next 10 years working for Hayes. So I started off again accountancy and finance recruitment, but quickly moved into HR recruitment and then into executive HR recruitment. And it was then that I was really exposed to and inspired by a lot of very senior HR heads. So, you know, I'd be one of the example that I always give is this fabulous American lady who I placed as head of talent into Westpac Bank in Sydney. Amazing woman, just really passionate about talent and engagement, and it was a real eye-opener for me. And really a turning point in my career where I was dealing with such exceptional, mostly women at very high levels of some big organizations. So I did that. I went traveling then from Sydney for 6 years. I traveled around the world on my own and friend hopped various locations around the planet. Had a brilliant time, but then got back to Sydney and I thought, what am I doing? Why am I so far away from the other side of the world, which is a long way from everything? So I decided to move back to the UK. And it's at the point where I moved back to the UK that I probably first started to experience a bit of imposter syndrome. So we'll touch on that in a second. But moved back to the UK, continued recruitment, and then I was recruiting for an organisation in Slough. They were a startup business, financial services organisation, and I was placed in the HR manager role. I loved the organisation. I got on so well with the commercial director, and I cheekily said to him, "Well, what about when you're ready, when the business is ready to have a recruitment role, come and talk to me?" And he said, "Well, what about the HR role?" And I said, "Well, I've recruited for HR for the last 8 years, but I've never done it." And he said, "Don't worry about it, we'll work it out." And we did. That was the start of my generalist career. And I was there for 4 years, went on maternity leave at that point, which was the second point that I started to experience elements of imposter syndrome. And then wanted to relocate back to the Northeast, where I am now. I'd had our daughter and wanted to go home. So it was at that point that I'd set up a franchise. I ran a franchise, a first aid franchise for a year. But at that point, a contact of mine from Sydney had been supporting an organisation in the UK, and they were really busy and they needed a bit of help. So I was asked if I'd work as a contractor for 3 months initially, and 5.5 years later, I am still working for the same CEO, same group of people who were all in that organization. We moved into another business, and then 2 years ago, Pace was born. Tim, our CEO, had asked if I would move across and head up the people function, and here I am. So Pace is only 2 years old, as I said. We are a process-led transformation consultancy, and we're working with healthcare organizations, the legal sector, and aviation too. So it's incredibly busy, but lots of fun. A real challenge, but lots of fun.
Amazing. Thank you for that. And just shows how much you have done within your career, and also how you've done, even like the whole just traveling in Australia and traveling around the world by yourself. You've done so much and built your career as well, despite having feelings of imposter syndrome, which we'll get to. So first, congratulations for doing so much, because I know a lot of people that reach out to me or that I've spoken to who do struggle with self-doubt or imposter syndrome, they do let it hold them back or say no to things. Whereas you, even with the HR role, you're like, yeah, well, I've not done it before, but yeah, and you kind of said yes to that opportunity. And that's what I've loved about you so far. And obviously we've worked together as well, but you're like one of the people where I'm like, this is what we need to do with your LinkedIn or build your personal brand. And you're like, yep, I'll do it. I'll post a video, and even doing things like LinkedIn Lives. You're like, yeah, I'll do it. So it's what I love about you is saying yes to opportunities, even though you're feeling or have felt those feelings, which is amazing. So thank you for that. We have got some comments, so I'll check them out, and then we'll get into some more questions specifically around like imposter syndrome, so we can share with everyone as well. Hi, Ian. Lovely to see you. Hello, Gail. Hi, Kerry. We've got Tim. Hi, Lee. Hello, Gail. Okay, she's joining from London. Great to see you.
Hi, Lee.
Hi, Jason.
There's lots of familiar names here.
Great to have you here joining us. So thank you. Perfect. So with imposter syndrome, so you touched on it a little bit there, but when did you first start to realise that you had it? Because I know before people didn't really know what it was or what it even was called. It was almost just feelings of self-doubt, and I know it's something that I experienced and I've talked about on my profile as well. But with you particularly, when did you first realise that you were having these feelings of imposter syndrome?
I think it's important that we just touch on types of imposter syndrome, because traditionally imposter syndrome was kind of thought to be something that mostly women felt, but it's not. It's everybody can experience imposter syndrome. So I can identify, just so that you know, with all 5 types. There's I'm going to read these. There's the perfectionist, where you believe that you should be doing absolutely perfectly at every single thing that you set your mind to. You could have done better. You might believe that you're not quite as good as people might think you are. There's the expert. So they feel like an imposter because they don't know everything about a particular subject. And, right now we're talking about the metaverse at work at the moment. I have no clue. But anyway, I make sure that I do some background reading in my own time so that I can, because otherwise I can feel that if I haven't reached that level of understanding of a topic or a subject, how can I be a specialist? How can I be an expert? The natural genius. So you may feel as though you're a fraud because you simply don't believe that you're naturally that intelligent or competent. Mm-hmm. If you don't get something right first time around, or it takes you longer to master a skill, you feel like an imposter. The soloist, it's also possible to feel like an imposter if you had to ask for help to reach a certain level or status. What is great about PACE is that we have some amazing people who are happy to support. We've just done a brilliant piece of work on our culture and values. And again, somebody that we brought into the business, Luke, had done this for a very large organization for 3 years, covering a program for that business. He has been such a great support. So you can feel like an imposter if you haven't got there on your own and you've had to use other people, other expertise to support you. And then the super person. So this type of imposter syndrome involves believing that you must be the hardest worker or reach the highest levels of achievement possible. And if you don't, you're a fraud. Yeah. So I think a lot of people can either identify with some, or like me, a little bit of all of that. So the first time I felt like a bit of an imposter was, like I said, I'd come back from Australia where I'd built a great network of people. I had worked in Sydney for 10 years. I was the person, others may argue, but I was seen as the person by many people as the expert in executive HR recruitment. And I chose, after 10 years, to uproot and travel back to the other side of the world again. And that was harder than going in the first place. So I landed in the UK. I decided not to come back to the Northeast at that point, but to go and live in a city I'd never lived in, because my best mate was living in Dorset. She was married and pregnant. And I thought, well, don't want to go home yet. I'll go to live in Bath. Bath. And so I did, and I didn't know anybody. I started a job in Bristol. I ended up managing the whole of the Southwest region, and nobody knew who I was, not even in the business. So I transferred with the same business, but nobody knew who I was. I had no network. I had no formal training. I'd come from an environment in Australia where there is no CIPD. You, at the time, I don't know if it's changed now, but you got to a point in your career where you've done a great job and you're recognized for your achievements. You don't have to have those letters behind your name to prove that you're good at what you do. So I had no formal training. I had no mentor. I had no area of safety, or I wasn't trusted. I didn't trust anybody else, really, on the flip side. And I didn't have a champion. I didn't have champions around me who thought I was amazing. Back in Sydney, I did, but I'd left all of that behind. So I hadn't yet established my tribe. So I'm thinking, well, what do I know? They all know the Southwest market. They all know the business in the UK. And it didn't help that Australia was doing brilliantly, but the UK wasn't. So I was being singled out as an example of somebody who'd done a great job, but actually you can come and do a great job here as well. And it was so strange. It was really alien to me. Then I moved into my first ever HR manager role, and Chris had said, oh, we'll work it out. And we did, but I didn't have an employment law background, and day to day, I hadn't run an HR function before. So there were times, as again, another startup, I was employee 30, I left, there was 150. So I was using my expertise in recruitment, but I hadn't done an HR generalist role previously. Then I went off on maternity leave and came back. And for any mums or dads, for that matter, on the call, you have time away, and then you come back into work and you're trying to navigate part-time working with family life. And my husband was away and he'd left the military and he was now in a new career. So he was elevating up to where he wanted to be. And there was a whole heap of navigating. You kind of feel as though you've stepped backwards. When I made the decision to head back up to the Northeast, it's a very public sector driven environment up here. And I'd never worked in the public sector. And again, I was starting again. I was going back up to the Northeast. I didn't know anybody. I might have met people down in the South, but I didn't know anybody in the North again, which was why I took a bit of an easy way out and set up a franchise. So I didn't have to work with anybody. I didn't have to go through an interview process again. And I could just find my own way. And I'm a true believer of the stars aligning, and you end up where you are meant to be and with the people that you're supposed to be with. And it's kind of, I wouldn't say that I suffer badly from imposter syndrome, but I have experienced it throughout my career. I've been in an HR generalist role now for 10 years. I was in recruitment for 17 years. So I've done the hard graft, but day to day still, there's so much to learn. And I think if you are a perfectionist or an expert with regards to imposter syndrome, it keeps you on your toes, for sure.
It does, definitely. And it's amazing that you acknowledged it throughout your career as well. And I think that shows that you're very self-aware, which is huge because, like you said, although you've not experienced it and you don't experience it all the time, it's, new situations, becoming a mom, moving. But equally, like you were saying, you're doing work now within the metaverse, or you're talking about metaverse, which is, again, is new. So things are constantly evolving within technology, within life, within business. So in some ways, I feel like a lot of people probably will sometimes feel like an imposter because things do keep changing. And if you aren't feeling a little bit pushed out of your comfort zones, that's almost, in my head, a worry in itself, because if we want to constantly evolve, change, and do better, then you might have those things like you were just explaining, like being a perfectionist. I've not done this before, those types of things.
It's really interesting you say that worry word, because I was thinking about this morning. One of my personality traits is that I worry, and I have always worried. My dad bought me a Mr. Worry book probably when I was 8. So I've always been that worrier. I'm the worrier in our relationship. Rod thinks everything will always be fine, and it generally is, but it's me that worries about things. So I think maybe having imposter syndrome comes from that element of, I need to have something to worry about.
Yeah, and it could be that. And I think acknowledging those feelings, and I know for me, and I know for a lot of people I've spoken to, almost realizing these feelings are normal and actually being like, okay, I feel this at the moment, but that's normal. It's okay. How am I going to navigate through it? Instead of feeling like this is really scary or this is really worrying, I'm not going to do anything because this feels safe not to do anything. So it's really cool that you've done so much.
Thank you. Being in the position that I'm in, we hire people into the business who might not have lots of years of experience. It might be the beginning of their career. I'm going to call, not by name, but an individual out who has consistently pushed herself out of her comfort zone and got to places. You'll see on our LinkedIn page that we like to push some boundaries and be courageous and do some silly things like events on Dartmoor and events in North Yorkshire in the rain and while swimming, and people
I've seen it, I love it.
constantly ask to do things they've never done before. So being in this position and having experienced imposter syndrome previously, I can relate. I know that it's scary. I know that we've all been at the beginning of our career because everybody has had to start somewhere. It's difficult, particularly with COVID, particularly with 2 years of lockdown, where people might have graduated and didn't go to their graduation ceremony and didn't have to go to lecture theatres, whatever it may be. Now they're in the work environment and they're being asked to go to a place in England where they've never been before, with people they've never physically been with before, overnight, in a bunk room, and participate and get involved, and it's a big thing. So it can happen at any. Sorry, say again.
Being thrown at the deep end, which is usually a good way to learn.
But all of them got something, not just something, got a lot out of it. It was invaluable. It's invaluable experience to have, and you can only learn from putting yourself into situations that you've never been in before.
Definitely. That's really a great tip there, because some people, like, let's say throughout your career, you might be really happy right now in your career, but there's always things you can do almost to push your comfort zones, whether it's like a fitness challenge or doing something a little bit different, just to keep you almost pushing yourself and kind of pushing comfort zones, because I think that is important as well, you mentioned. And something that I do see quite a lot, or when people reach out to me, is that they really want to progress their career, that they're in a corporate leadership role, or they're wanting to do something more, or like create their own business, but they're just not actually doing anything because they feel like they might fail, or they're not very, they're worrying if people find them out because they're not as good, or they feel. A common thing that I've noticed that some people feel like everyone else just has it all figured out, where I'm like, no, actually nobody has it all figured out. We're all learning as we go, but you're going to learn quicker if you actually push your comfort zones and get out there, because no one has the whole finished, you know, book of what to do in life. We're all learning as we go. So almost thinking that somebody else has it all figured out is the worst thing to do, because really no one does.
I totally agree. I think you should never, and the world of social media is really challenging. You know, you've got your Instagram, your Facebook, your LinkedIn. You can see everybody. LinkedIn is an extension of what was just a CV. So I remember having to handwrite my CV, pop it in the post. It would go onto somebody's desk and sit there for however long. Then you get a handwritten or typed letter back. You can see everybody's career quite openly on LinkedIn if they're obviously a member. It's very easy to compare yourself on Instagram or yourself on LinkedIn in terms of career background to anybody else. The thing is, you should never compare yourself to anybody else. You can use LinkedIn to be inspired by other people, but don't compare your experience, because everybody has different motivations, different personality traits. Everybody is different and everybody has something to offer. And I think that's the most important thing. Be inspired. Don't judge yourself compared to somebody else.
I love that. And the quote that I love is, comparison is a thief of joy. I'm not sure if you've heard that, but it's so true, because when you're constantly comparing yourself to other people or their kind of show reel of what they put online, you can start to feel like, oh, I'm behind, or, you know, I thought by my age I would be, even like, let's say with Facebook, married with kids or those types of things. It's so easy to compare your life to someone else's. But on that, whether it's LinkedIn or across social media, I just say it is your decision of who you follow. So you are able to mute notifications and still say connect to people. That's on LinkedIn as well, or hide people's posts if you are feeling a certain way by it. And just follow people that do make you feel good, I would say, because, you know, do still use the platform, but follow people who make you feel good and who make you feel, you know, inspired, or just make you feel like you want to use the platform, because it is your social media to use how you wish. So make sure that you're following people that you want to follow, is what I would say.
I don't know if this is a new thing. You can tell me. You can now follow people without linking in with them, can't you?
Yes, you can. So if you turn creator mode on, if people have creator mode on, then they'll have a follow button instead of connect. But if if they don't have creator mode on, all you'd do is go to next to connect, and then there's like more, and then you can press follow instead of connecting with them. So there are ways to follow instead of connecting on LinkedIn, which is really
That's a good way. If you're not comfortable sending somebody a connection request, following them is a really good way to get an idea of their insight. I connected with somebody last week in America who I've never met before, but somebody must have liked something and she was on my algorithm, and I really liked. It was something about values, perhaps, or supporting her team, and I really liked what she said, so I connected with her. But if you don't want to connect, you don't want to put yourself out there, you don't know what to say or how to connect, then following is a really good idea, I think.
Yeah, it is. So yeah, on LinkedIn now there is the follow function, so do use it. Do let us know also in the comments if this resonates with you, and if you have got any questions about overcoming imposter syndrome, or what your own experiences have been with it. It'd be really cool to hear from you. So let me just have a little look. So cool. So I was working, so a lot of what you've been saying is very similar. Lee, I've just got your comments. So hopefully everyone else is still in the live. Do let us know that you can see us clearly. That would be helpful for us. Hopefully that's not happened to everyone, but do let us know, because that would be useful to know. So I feel like you've definitely experienced imposter syndrome and you've acknowledged it. Would you say it's ever held you back at all, or have you always been the type just to be like, yes to opportunities, or and yes, just going for opportunities?
I think it depends on the situation. I just turn the comments off. I don't want to see everybody. I think it depends on the conversation and the situation. We've obviously worked together before on the LinkedIn side of things. You did a great job for our organization. Part of what we did was the LinkedIn optimization. We updated our profiles, we looked at our SSI score, and you suggested that we put videos on to our profiles. And I think I was actually beaten to it by one of our other leaders. I think Ed actually did it first.
Oh, Ed did one as well, yeah. Well
Yeah,
done,
he
Ed.
was brilliant. I felt as though I was happy to do it, because I won't do something. I won't ask somebody to do something if I'm not comfortable doing it myself.
Yeah.
And I want to lead by example. So I offered actually, I think I was volunteered to do it first. But anyway, I said yes. And Ed went straight in and did it at home. I needed to do it in a more structured way. And so my next door neighbor has a son, and they do videography. So I wrote him in and he did it for me. I was also really conscious that I and my team, we are the first people that engage with a lot of potential candidates for PACE. And so we represent the PACE brand, and I wanted to make sure that it was very professional, if you like. So yes, in that situation, I was really nervous doing it, but I roped in. See, I wasn't the soloist. I felt like I had to do it myself, but I roped in extra support.
You did really well with that also. And check out Gail's LinkedIn videos and her profile video. It looks really, really good. So although you got someone to help you with the video, you were the one speaking it and not doing it. So you should get, you definitely did.
It was quite nerve-wracking. And you know, Keisha, I was at an event a couple of weeks ago with at the site of an organisation that I follow that's local to the Northeast. They do some brilliant work, Opencast, if you want to check them out too. And one of the recruiters there said to me, Gail, I've just noticed the video on your profile and it looks amazing. And I'm going to speak to the head of talent acquisition. I'm going to suggest that we do it as well. So I don't know if she's actually been in touch with you, Keisha.
Yeah, she has. Yeah,
has she?
thank you for that. Yeah,
Excellent.
Which is amazing. Like that people are acknowledging your profile, but also that they're recommended. So yeah, thank you for that also.
You're welcome.
What the good thing about having a video on your profile is that you just differentiate yourself from everyone else, but equally you become warm and you become human, like in terms of online, because we are all human and we are all people. So on LinkedIn, where you're trying to connect, get new opportunities, progress your career, win clients, why would you not put your self out there on video? Because if you go to a conference, you're going to have to speak to someone in person. So it warms up your profile so much more and helps differentiate you from a cold LinkedIn profile with no video, no pictures, anything. So it definitely helps. And your videos and your profile looks really good. So well done for you to actually implement it and kind of do the videos.
Well, thanks for pushing us to do it. So yes, that was one instance. But then I was talking about this morning when we were when I first joined the business. The leadership team were taken down to Dartmoor, and we did some trust exercises with a Royal Marine community. And in the pouring rain on Dartmoor, we were asked to do it. Oh, I always get this wrong. Traverse, an abseil, and a rock climb. And I was petrified. A couple of others were even more petrified. Others took it in their stride. Thoroughly enjoyed the situation, but I was so scared of throwing myself off this quarry cliff across it on a wire that I knew that if I stood there and waited and watched everybody else, I would have got more nervous, and the chances are that I would have backed out. Yeah. So I volunteered to go first, and I just threw myself in there, and I knew that the quicker I did it, the quicker it would be over.
That doesn't surprise me. Just saying, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, the same with the abseil. I don't think I was first on the traverse, but I was definitely first on the abseil. But what I learned when it came to the rock climb, again, I mean, everything was wet, Keisha. It was just awful. I volunteered to go first, but I was the shortest. I was the only female, and I have never rock climbed. If I had not gone first, I would have learned from the team around me how to do it better, how to do it and not hurt myself, how to do it, where to put my feet, where to hold on, which was the easiest route. but I didn't. I stupidly threw myself in it again, and I got to the top and there was tears.
Oh.
So I'd done it, but it really hurt. I had to be dragged up the top bit.
That would
Anyway,
be me. But you did it, which is.
But I did do it.
Yeah.
So whether or not it holds me back, no, I don't think it does. But I can have differentiating levels of worry, nerves, not so much anxiety about it, but it depends on the situation.
No, I totally understand that. So it's kind of depends on the situation and how you're going to navigate it in your head. But you feel the nerves, but you still somehow do it, which is really cool. Just going to check the comments.
You can use those nerves to your advantage. You know, a bit of adrenaline. I don't think I think you are. I don't think adrenaline is necessarily a bad thing. It forces you out of your comfort zone and it teaches you a lot about yourself.
Yeah, it does. I think adrenaline is a good feeling. It's like having those feelings, it helps you to push your comfort zones, and it's not, don't feel it and then do nothing with it, almost use it to power you to do the thing that you want to do.
That.
So I've just got a comment, I want to do a video. We can't see your name. I think it's probably in your settings, your privacy settings, so apologies, I can't see who you are, but great that you want to do a video. Do drop me a message if you are struggling with it. You've just seen Tim comment about your journey, and also Al, which is your inspirationals, which is really cool within your team.
The biggest thing, Keisha, was that we were all in an environment where we trusted each other and we trusted the people leading us. And that is the biggest thing for me about where I am in my career now. I'm in an environment where we trust each other implicitly, and we help each other, and we support each other. We don't all know it. We're only 2 years old. We've got a lot of work to do, but for the first time since I worked in Australia, I feel as though I am where I need to be in my career and in an environment with the people. I'm incredibly fortunate that the business found me. I didn't go out looking for this role. It found me. And I think, some people say it's all, you make your own luck. I do believe that. And a lot of it is through networking. Again, back to LinkedIn. Don't be afraid to reach out to people who you might not have met, but you've heard great things about, and pass on great feedback, pass on, thoughts that other people have said about that person, because like attracts like. And if you're spending time with great positive people, the chances are that those people might introduce you to other great people. And it's all about finding your supporters and finding your champions and finding your tribe to give you the confidence to be able to achieve what you want to achieve.
Yeah, that's really cool what you said there. So life attracts like, but also connect with people who you resonate with, or you like what they're doing. And sometimes just dropping someone a message and saying, really great, I love your profile, of what you're doing. You never know where that conversation might lead. And if you just go into it with that kind of mindset of, I really like this person's profile, I really like what this person's done within their company or what they're doing within their career, or just anything that you like about what they're doing, usually that's quite a nice way to open a conversation. And even if it doesn't lead anywhere, but it's a new connection or a new person that you've met through LinkedIn, that's a huge thing in itself, because you never, one opportunity from one connection could lead you anywhere, which is, I know it's happened with me with business, and it's probably happened with a lot of other people within their careers. And even you, how you said, you stay within the same team, even though you've moved to, did set up different companies, you stayed together, which is really huge. So what I want to talk about, you've talked about imposter syndrome, but a big thing that I speak about on my profile, and I know you've done a great job with it within your career because you've landed such really cool roles and leadership roles, is personal branding. So building a personal brand, building a network and kind of online presence is important now. But in your experience, in your opinion, why would you say building a personal brand is important, and why has it been important for you?
I think it goes back to the point where you should never compare yourself to others and be inspired by others. I think it's really important before you start to build your personal brand that you know yourself. And I don't think that necessarily comes easily. I think it has to be something that you do work on. The common theme through my life and my career is that I am a natural networker. I bring people together. When I left Sydney, my girlfriends didn't want me to leave because they knew, and it happened, they knew they'd never all get together because I wasn't the person to organize the get-togethers, the lunches, the nights out, whatever it was. So now they're disconnected and they don't keep together. So I bring people together. I'm an organizer, and I, get feedback. Two people in my world collided last week at a networking event, and they shared the same feedback. They share the same feedback. I'll not go into that, but they share the same feedback, and it's being consistently you, I think, and knowing who you are, and trusting that might be what people want to see. So, if I'm the first person that somebody from outside of PACE sees, it's about me being authentic, me being trusted again, me being open and honest and engaging and following up. Candidates don't get feedback, and candidates don't even hear if they've been successful or not. Throughout an interview process, I'll try my best to be organized and keep people informed along the way so that they know where they're at with it. So it's being consistent. It's being trying to put yourself in other people's shoes. So trying to be consistent with who you are, what you do, how you do it, and then from there building content around that, so that you do have an online presence. 6 months ago, all of our profiles were very factual. They're a bit like a written CV. You've helped us to bring our profiles to life. Again, PACE being so young, if you like, 2 years old, we don't have a big marketing team. We do everything ourselves. So we needed an element of consistency of branding, but also the fact that we are individuals. We've all come from different places. We've all got something unique to offer. So we needed to have the PACE element, but also who we are as individuals, because everybody in the team contributes to our success. So it is interesting. You need to stand out. If you're a candidate, you do need to stand out from the crowd, because we can advertise one job and we can get 180 applications. And it's often, I might regret saying this, but it's often the applicant who has applied and has then reached out with the reasons why they believe that they are the best fit for that job that will get a response, or a quicker response.
100%.
Even if it's just to acknowledge that they have the relevant experience, or they don't. And I'll feedback pretty quickly if they don't. But it's that person who has put themselves out there to engage with me. It just shows commitment. It shows passion for the role, and it shows an eagerness to learn more. So it's really important to just differentiate yourself from 179 other applicants.
I totally agree with all that you said there. So with your personal brand, you need to get clear yourself on what you want to be known for. Who do you want to be perceived as? Because it's up to you what you want your personal brand to be. And if you don't intentionally shape your personal brand, other people will just do it for you. So if you know that you want to be known as the best at something, and that's what you want to do in the future, and even within your personal values, how you want to be, how you said one of your great skills is being a kind of super connector and connecting people. Who are you as a person, and what are you passionate about, and what is your personality like? So show up, both in person and online as the real you, because that one, it'll be a lot easier. You don't have to try and be something that you're not. And that's something that I've been big on with myself, but also with clients, is like, you have your own personality, you have your own story. Let's make sure that on your LinkedIn, we're sharing that, because there's so many different companies out there. There's so many different candidates out there. How can we make you stand out for you. And that's why a big thing that I work on, as you were mentioning it with profiles, is it's not just about the company brand. Yes, obviously that's important, what your services are, what your business is, or what you do. Let's say if you're a candidate, what your skills are, but who are you underneath that? Who are you as a person? What are your interests? What's your personality? What's your passions? Because that's what's going to connect you, to other people as humans, because we all like to work with people we like and that we resonate with. So it's blending, your skills, but also your personality, your passions, your values, and then being authentic, showing up online and offline as the same version. And then a great piece that you said about candidates there is differentiate yourself. So if that means you have to go the extra mile to, apply, then find the contact person, then message them with why you applied and why you're interested in the position. That will help you stand out, because, if not, you might just go into like a system where there's loads and loads of CVs. If you've done the extra mile by putting yourself out there, by emailing saying or messaging saying, I've just applied, really love what you're doing at Pace. It looks really cool, and acknowledge what you like about them and why you think you'd be a good fit. You're far more likely to get ahead of the people that just quickly applied and went on to the next thing. So really great tips there. I'm just going to check some of the comments. So Jason, so you're getting lots of support here, Gail. So great work working with you guys. Well done, Gail, for telling your story. Jamie, really great advice on building your personal brand. Jason, love the culture at Pace. Me too. Tim, Jason, thanks, Jason. Explains why you're on this call, why Point and Pace are working together. Cultural alignment is key. See how lovely this is? Perfect. So definitely personal branding is really important online and offline. And that's important if you are, if you do have imposter syndrome, you just have to push your comfort zones, unfortunately, and do it. Like Gail's done, like I've done, like, so many other people have done. And there's a stat that I read recently, which I think is probably more than that, like how Gail mentioned at the start of this call. It's like 77% of people have imposter syndrome or have experienced it. And that's super, super successful people, by the way, as well. So it is going to be normal that you experience it. You're no different to most other people. Feel the fear and do it anyway, is what I would say. And if you are an introvert, ambivert, extrovert, whatever your personality is, again, there's no reason why you shouldn't be building your personal brand and showing up as the authentic you as well. So
just to contrast the be your authentic self, I also think it is okay to fake it until you make it.
Yeah, but that's being authentic though, isn't it? Yeah, like in terms of, yeah.
You're not, recruitment in particular is a sales role. You are selling yourself as an employer, you're selling the company as an organization that somebody wants to come and work for. So I'm not saying that you fake that. I'm saying if you lack confidence in any part of your role.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So we're talking about being authentic. Absolutely be authentic. But if you are nervous about putting yourself into a situation where you don't think you can do it, put a smile on your face, turn up, and nobody knows that you're nervous. And maybe back in the day, you'd be in a big meeting room and you'd have to do a presentation in front of 30 people or more. Tim was at the Gartner Symposium last week, and there was events for 3,000 people at a time. Imagine standing up and talking to 3,000 delegates at any one time. I couldn't do it. Do you think he was nervous? I think he probably was, the speaker. But he probably, put his big boy or girl pants on and just got on with it. And nobody knew how nervous he was. People don't know how you're feeling. Just get up there and fake it till you make it.
That is a really great tip, actually, because how you said no one actually knows, because nobody does know. No one knows what's going on inside your head. And the thing that I say is perception is everything. So show up how you want to be perceived. Nobody know. Even the amount of times that I've, done videos, I still get nervous and things that I do, but it's like no one actually really knows about how you're feeling inside. So you do need to, in some ways, just show up, fake it that you are like this, that you feel comfortable in this situation. But what I also think is important is the authentic side is still be you as a person, as like your, your personality and your values. That can stay the same. But push your comfort zones in that sense, how Gail's been saying, like nobody actually knows how you're feeling inside. And What are you going to say? Sorry.
Sorry, Casey, you carry on.
I've only got comfortable, I'd probably say the past 6 to 12 months, actually, because you actually are right. I probably showed up initially, like, you know, I didn't talk about imposter syndrome or being an introvert. I just showed up with personal branding and LinkedIn tips. Probably only 6 to 12 months that I've actually talked about and being an introvert and imposter syndrome, because I feel more comfortable with doing that now. Whereas you are probably right, where I used to run all these workshops for years and years for CIOs. I never went in those sessions and was like, yeah, I'm quite nervous for these things, because you do need to put yourself out there. Tell yourself you're meant to be there, and then when you start to feel more comfortable with sharing your journey, then you can as well.
And I was going to add that it's okay to feel vulnerable, and it's okay to ask for help, and it's okay to ask for feedback, and be open to that feedback and learn from that feedback. So, you know, everybody's always been in the same situation and had to overcome it, or they still feel it, but yeah, just learn from it, I think.
Yeah, and the more that you say yes to opportunities and put yourself out there, the quicker you'll learn. If you keep procrastinating on doing something, you'll never learn, because you won't have pushed yourself to be in that position to learn. So
saying yes is a really important piece. When I moved to Bath, I knew that I didn't know anybody, so I said I will say yes to every invitation that comes my way. And 10 weeks after landing in the country, I met my husband because I said yes to an invitation to go and watch a rugby match, and the rest is history. So you just don't know who that meeting will lead you to, or what experience it'll lead you to, and yeah, just say yes.
That's so nice. Yeah, so big tip from today, say yes, even if you're not sure what it's going to lead to, because you really don't know, you know, what one saying yes to an invitation, one connection saying yes to, one invite, it really can lead you to so many different places. So I've just got a few more questions around content and personal branding. I know there's been some comments asking more about it as well. So you've obviously posted your videos now on LinkedIn. Did anything surprise you about posting your video content? Did you feel the more you showed up online, it got easier, or how did you find that whole experience? And do you have any tips, I suppose, for someone who's never posted a video before? They're really nervous, they don't even know where to start with actually recording it, but like what tips would you share with your experience with video content?
As I said, I took a safe route and got somebody professional to edit it for me. It couldn't be too scripted.
Yeah.
I tried to I tried to say too much, because you've only got 30 seconds. So you need to try and get your point across very quickly in those 30 seconds. So be prepared, but don't be too scripted. I had said that I'd try and keep it updated and do one regularly. So that's on me to do. So I'll be in exactly the same situation when I find some time to update it. And maybe in the new year, every 6 months.
Yeah, I think that's good. So don't be too scripted, and if you need to get help, do. But you also can, for those who haven't got someone to help or don't want to spend money on getting someone professional, you can also use your mobile. I choose my iPhone, do a lot of my video content because it's quicker and easier for me to do it that way. And a lot of people do it just on their phone. So don't wait for the right equipment to do things, because you can do a lot with what you've got already.
Try not to overthink it as well. Try not to put too much structure around it.
Because what you can find as well is with doing a short video is, and I know I've experienced it and that clients have, is you almost end up recording it so many times you don't like the way you said a particular word, or you're like, oh, my hair looked funny there, or I just, I messed that up. But just, as if you've got a good enough version where you're like, I said what I wanted to say in general, just post it is what my big advice. You can always edit it like you said, Gail, but most people won't even notice that error that you made or that slight word that you said a bit different. So just get your first one out. My big thing is it does get easier. It becomes a habit. And once you put your face out there once, you can keep doing it then, because you've got over that fear of what are people going to think of me, which again, people don't really care. Most people you find, I know, Gail, you've probably felt the same, is they're inspired by your videos and actually like, this is really cool. I want to do it, but I haven't done it. I've not been too nervous to, I don't know how to. So you'll actually find that by doing a video, you're going to still be one of the first people on LinkedIn to have done it, because only 4% of LinkedIn users post original content. So the quicker you do it, the easier it will get. Just going to check comments. If you do have any specific questions for Gail or I, just before we wrap up, do let us know, whether that's to do with imposter syndrome, building your career, or personal branding. We are going to be wrapping up shortly. I've got a couple more questions for Gail before we go. So Victoria, hi Victoria, great conversation. Lady Gail's great representation of being open and honest, effectively connecting with our pace people and customers, leading the way. Oh, hi Sharon, great to see you here. Agree, saying yes to opportunities is key. I learned that from a client actually some time ago. She started as a secretary, and because she said yes to opportunities, she progressed to where she was the global head of a team in an investment bank.
Wow.
Love that. So say yes to opportunities, say yes to things that come your way. They've came your way for a reason, and you never know where it might lead to as well. So some of the things I suppose I want to ask for, especially particularly in your position as head of people, you're obviously speaking to a lot of candidates. So you spoke about what candidates can do to maybe message you once they've applied, just that will help them stand out. Is there anything particular that you look for on LinkedIn, or are you able to talk through people with the process of, you finding good candidates? What should they put on their LinkedIn profile to make them stand out to you?
I think with applicants, when there's a specific role and there's a CV and there is also a LinkedIn profile, I think it's really important that the two pieces of information match.
Yes.
Because if it doesn't, it leads to questions.
Confusion.
And it might just be that they're not comfortable online, or they don't understand LinkedIn and the power of it, and they haven't yet talked to Keisha about the value it can add.
Yeah.
But if there are huge differences or gaps and it just doesn't add up, I'm really sorry, but you're not going to get an interview, or I've got 180 other people to ask a question of ahead of you, so you'll just be at the bottom of the pile. So I think it just has to be truthful and relevant and updated, and give a bit of yourself, give a bit of your personality. We like to know as a business that people aren't just sitting at a desk for 12 hours a day. You might be out walking the hills for your downtime. You might be, we've got team members who rode across the Atlantic.
Wow.
I know, I'm so inferior. Again, what was that person? I don't know. I'm surrounded by inspirational people all the time, and I want to be inspired by other new members of the team. So give me something to talk about. I don't really want to talk about solution architecture. I'd much rather, as an HR person, as a people person, understand about you and what makes you tick.
Yeah.
So yeah, give something of yourself, make it relevant, make it up to date,
and make them match your CV and profile.
Let a bit of your personality shine through. I don't, the extroverts listening, I don't think you necessarily need to be way out there, but just something else to talk about. Your achievements outside of work, your achievements in work.
That's really great, and that just shows the importance of how what you've done a great job with is not just being someone, as a career or in business you or work you. It's we've all got more elements to our lives, well, hopefully, than just work. So, and people like to work with people who've got similar interests or who've got similar hobbies, or maybe not even similar, but something that they can talk about, which is, oh, that's really cool. Tell me more about that, because that's how you're going to break the ice, and that's how you're going to be different, is because you are a person. So show up as that, but equally, like Gail just said, make sure that your CV and your LinkedIn match, because you don't want to confuse the potential employer or the recruiter. Make it as easy as possible to see what you do, and your LinkedIn is your shop window to that. So make sure that's up to date, and also set it to public if you can, because you'll make it easier to get found as well. Perfect. So hi Nicola, great to see you. Nice to see so many of you here with us. So I've just got two more questions. So when it comes to, you've obviously said you're really great, and I can see this already, is being like a connector and connecting people. What tips have you got for someone? Because I hear quite a lot that people are quite afraid to connect with people on LinkedIn. And I know you mentioned about like maybe follow instead, or even just messaging someone on LinkedIn. Do you have any tips for someone to grow their network or to connect with people and to build relationships? Because I think building relationships is such a key skill, which so many people maybe still haven't got quite right. But what's your tips on how to build relationships and how to get to know other people, maybe on LinkedIn, but also in person within their careers as well?
I obviously used to work in a recruitment agency environment where it was all about sales. And I listened to Nigel's live with you last week, and he obviously has a very impressive sales career. So from my perspective, I will respond to people if they send me a connection with some relevant information in it, and there's a reason for me to connect.
Yeah.
If it's just a straightforward sales connection, I'm not going to accept. I don't know you. We don't have anybody in common. I don't need the product that you're trying to sell me. And I'm not just going to grow my network for that purpose.
Yeah.
I need to know, I don't know, I need to know something. There needs to be a reason why. Why are you contacting me?
So almost that is such a great, because like, what's in it for you? Like, why should you connect?
Yeah. So it might be a candidate. It could be somebody asking for help, somebody asking for advice. Anybody on this call is welcome to connect. I'm always happy to connect, because I think, like we say, somebody might know somebody, and we can all support each other. Everybody's been in a situation where they need support. There's somebody here on the call today who I only connected with this morning, and I felt that because I'd been in a very similar role to the role that she'd been in, that she is currently in, she might find some of this useful. And it was a connection made through a mutual connection, but I knew that I could maybe offer some advice, and we're talking again separately next week. So make it relevant, understand, love you, Sarah, understand why that person might want to connect with you. Yeah. It's not just about selling a Christmas hamper. Sorry, Christmas hamper salespeople, but
to set your intentions when you're trying to connect, like, what is your why? And also, if you are a candidate looking for a new role, tell the person that, that you are looking for help right now. Or if you are, let's say, in business and you're trying to get new clients, lead with a value first approach, because as Gail just said, people always think, which is, the harsh reality is, what's in it for me? What can I learn from this person? Do they share good content or tips that I could learn from? Have they got a good network? What's in it for me, and why should I connect with this person?
I will say that the exception to everything I've just said is that we do a lot with the Armed Forces Covenant, and we do have members of our team who are reservists and also veterans.
Oh, wow.
So there is such a huge network of military personnel in their career or having left the armed forces, who I am more than happy to connect with, just so that they have connections. So I might not be able to help, but through my network, they might be able to reach out to somebody who could have an opportunity for them, or who could support them from a mental health perspective, or whatever it may be. And that is the exception. I'll connect with anybody who's military or veteran.
That's perfect. And yeah, likewise, and I'm sure a lot of people here would as well. So, it's about helping people who need that kind of support with their next step in their career, and especially military, which is really cool. So amazing. So final question for you is, you've talked about some really, really amazing tips, and you've progressed your career and in leadership roles, despite having feelings of imposter syndrome, despite navigating so many different changes within your life, personally, and also career. You've got on with it, you've said yes, and you've made it happen, which is really inspiring. And I'm sure a lot of people here are inspired by your journey and your story. What would you say your number one tip is for someone that they can do this week to step out their comfort zones and to build their personal brand?
Firstly, connect with Keisha if you're not already connected with Keisha. Follow her lives, because you will learn a lot from it. I think people should get into the habit of asking for feedback. I want feedback from my team after this. But from a LinkedIn perspective, ask your friends, your parents, your colleagues, is what I'm putting out there on LinkedIn a real representation of who I am? Because your friends will tell you, well, actually, you're not selling yourself as a networker or a connector, or you remember the time that you did this. Sometimes I think you can be too close to the content and you don't see what others see about you. So I think asking for feedback, is it true? Is it relevant? Am I selling myself well enough? Ask other people to contribute to your content.
Yeah, that's really helpful. That's a really great tip to finish on. So get feedback, because sometimes you can be too close to it, and sometimes people just write their CV or write their LinkedIn, and then they don't actually realize how it, like you said, how it looks to the person reading it, and you maybe haven't sold yourself enough, and maybe that next step up in your career or who you're trying to attract with your audience, you're just not speaking to them. So get feedback. It can feel a bit awkward if you're not used to getting feedback at first, but you soon get used to it, and it will only help you as well, which is the best thing. Thank you so much, Gail, for joining me on this live. You've been amazing.
You for having me.
I know a lot of people have said the same in the comments. How can people get in contact with you if they want to learn more about what you're doing at Pace, and about you as well? If they want to maybe learn about Pace at careers, but also about Pace, what you're doing as a business and helping other organisations. How can they best get in contact with you?
Everybody is welcome to connect with me. So Gail Atkins, head of people at Pace, or my email address is just gailatkins@pace-xl.com.
Perfect. And I have also tagged you in this post, so you will be able to see Gail as well there, so you can reach out to her. I've just got a couple more comments that I'll just show before we leave. So Tim, sound advice, candidate open, inspiration listening, thank you. Even those you assume are bubbling with confidence often face an internal battle with confidence, regardless of rank, title, and gender. You're so right there. The amount of people that now speak to me about imposter syndrome, I'm like, what? You've got this?
Yeah.
I just have no idea, because they, like you said, nobody ever knows. It's what's going on in your head. Lee, open, honest, and thoughtful. Thank you both. A lot to take away. Victoria, great session. Thank you so much for your thought. Great session. Perfect. Well, you're welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for joining. Appreciate you being here. Thank you, Gail, especially for agreeing to do this and saying yes. Your big advice. Say yes to opportunities. I appreciate you and appreciate you all for joining. Have a great rest of your day and great week. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.